Well, hello there everyone. My name is George Bancroft and I'm currently in southeastern Georgia. It's 5:30 in the morning and pretty cold right now. I'm wearing a sweater in the southeast US, go figure. However, I'm about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. I'm going to drive 500 miles south to visit one of the greatest natural wonders of the world, the Everglades National Park. So, come along with me as we embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Welcome to the Everglades. The Everglades National Park consists of 1.5 million acres of protected wetland in southern Florida, an area that is nearly double the size of the state of Rhode Island. This area is the largest subtropical wilderness in the United States and is critical for the survival of many species of birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and other wildlife. As someone who has a strong interest in wildlife, visiting the Everglades has always been at the top of my bucket list, especially for its large herpetofauna biodiversity. And as soon as I arrived, it didn't take very long for me to find my first herp of the trip, an Everglades racer swimming in a cave-like pool. As fascinating as it was to see the snake swimming, I happened to be more intrigued with the cave, as it was a landscape feature that I wasn't expecting to find in the Everglades. Just down the road from the cave, I found several baby American alligators that were basking along the edge of a coastal prairie. Since moving to the southeast from the northeast, I have greatly enjoyed the ease of seeing alligators and the little effort it takes to find them. But in the Everglades, there is so much to see in a very large area, so after spending some time with these young gators, I continued my drive to my campsite. While driving, I came across my second herp, a massive Florida softshell turtle right along the side of the main Parkway Road. This female was probably around 2 feet in length, and after posing for a couple of minutes, she headed off back into the wetland.
¿Verdad? El caparazón.
Tiene como poco caparazón.
Soft-shell turtles exhibit extreme sexual dimorphism, and females are nearly double the size of males. In the U.S., the Florida is the largest of the soft-shell species and range throughout the entire state of Florida, southeastern Georgia, and very southern parts of Alabama and South Carolina. Okay, everyone, we have arrived at the far end of the Everglades, as far south as we can go. I've just pitched my tent. It's currently 7 o'clock, and we have a beautiful weather that we're experiencing right now. Even though I've driven 8 hours today and I'm pretty tired, I still want to go out and explore as much as I can during my time here. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to get back on the road. I'm going to go out and I'm going to continue to look for some stuff. Wow, this is really cool. Looks like this is all dried up over here. We just followed the trail and came out to this opening and a beautiful view of the sunset. This is literally paradise. I ended the evening by hiking some trails around the campsite and then transitioned into road cruising after dark. With temperatures less than 70 degrees, I didn't see much in the 25 miles I covered, but I did manage to add one snake to my lifer list. So this is a Florida scarlet snake that we found. You can see it's a scarlet snake because the bands do not go all the way around on the bottom. This is the second snake of the day, but the first snake of the night, and what a beautiful way to start the evening. Truly a stunning, stunning snake. The scarlet snake is a small fossorial colubrid that usually is active on the surface at night during warmer times of the year. But with summertime temperatures year-round in the Everglades, here they are observed much more frequently. Notice the red snout and the alternating bands of red, black, and yellowish white. This can be used to distinguish the scarlet snake from the venomous coral snake, who has a black snout and typically a black, yellow, red banding pattern. Scarlet snakes are harmless and rarely bite when handled. In fact, this one didn't even musk. Well, good morning, everybody. It is our first full day here in the Everglades National Park. I got a kayak and we are on my way to my destination. We're going to be kayaking at a place called 9 Mile Pond. 9 Mile Pond is home to a massive crocodile who's referred to as Croczilla. So my goal is to find said Croczilla. And we have a few hours to kayak today. The whole place takes 4 to 5 hours to kayak. If I go over, so be it. But we're going to kayak until we find this guy. But we'll see. I'll touch back with you in a couple minutes once we arrive, and we'll get going. Being able to kayak the mangrove swamps that surrounded 9 Mile Pond was truly an amazing experience and made me feel that I was in another world. While these trail markers did guide me through the mangroves, they also reminded me that I always needed to be aware of my surroundings. Okay everyone, so right over here there is an alligator that is maybe 15 feet away from my kayak, and the gator itself is nearly as long as my kayak. I think this gator, safe to say, is between 6 to 8 feet in length. I was not expecting to find a gator or a crocodile in such shallow water like this, but absolutely do not want to disturb this guy. He or she has been content to just sit there and let us paddle by. So that's what we're going to continue to do, and we're going to let this gator be in peace. After that close encounter with the one gator in the mangroves, I would kayak past 2 more on my return to the pond. While back in the pond, I also got to witness and finally capture footage of ospreys hunting. These are my favorite raptors, and I was fortunate that this would not be my last encounter with them in the Everglades. Overall, I really enjoyed my time exploring 9 Mile Pond, even if I didn't get to see a giant crocodile. However, it wouldn't be much longer until I finally got to experience these magnificent reptiles with my own eyes. Located in the southwest corner of the Everglades, Flamingo has to be one of the coolest places to visit in the entire national park. Named after the charismatic bird that once occurred in the area, Flamingo is now a marina that offers boaters access to the freshwater wetlands in the forest of the Everglades on one side, and access to Florida Bay on the other. At the marina store, visitors can buy food, much-needed outdoor supplies, souvenirs, and even gas for their cars. But my main reason for visiting Flamingo was because it's probably the most reliable place in the United States to get a glimpse at an American crocodile, and after a few minutes of searching, I got to see one finally for the very first time. I struggled to find the words to describe the moment when I came face to face with my first crocodile in the wild. Watching them as a kid hunt African mammalian megafauna on nature shows and Steve Irwin tangling with them in Australia made crocodiles seem so foreign and exotic to me. Yet here was one right off the marina, completely unfazed by kayakers launching and returning just a mere 50 feet away. I would go on to watch and photograph this crocodile for several more minutes, and during that time it really didn't do much of anything. So once satisfied with the footage I captured, I headed over to the other side of the marina to continue my crocodile search. And sure enough, I was able to find a second, smaller crocodile just on the other side of the channel, basking on an exposed log. Like the first one, this crocodile too was unfazed by any human activity, but it would soon be displaced by another larger crocodile who stole its basking area. It was so hard to resist the temptation of spending all day with these amazing animals. I mean, look at those teeth! God, I love crocodiles. But eventually, I had to bid farewell and moved on, continuing to explore the Flamingo Marina. At the end of the marina, I came across a stunning viewing opportunity of the Florida Bay archipelago. Beyond here lies the Florida Keys and then the Caribbean. After taking a short rest watching the boating traffic, I headed back to the parking lot, but as I passed by the marina, I got to experience another amazing wildlife encounter. A dozen other people and myself got to witness a manatee break the water surface to breathe while foraging during the early evening. If my memory serves me well, this was the first time I ever got to see a manatee, let alone capture footage of one, so I would say that this was a very memorable experience. As the sun set on a memorable day exploring the Everglades, I would hop in my truck for another night of road cruising. This time, to maximize the potential to see as many herps as possible, I would work my way to the park entrance, 40 miles from my campsite. A massive lightning storm which passed by as I made my way to the entrance was spectacular to watch, but did raise some concerns and threaten to ruin the night. However, the storm would not end up hitting the areas I road cruised, and as darkness fell, I began the drive back to my campsite. Shortly after, I came across my lifer brown water snake and would continue to film and photograph this large adult as it worked its way off the road and back into the dense vegetation. Growing up in New England, I only had the opportunity to see one species of Nerodia, and that was the northern water snake. So while others might take for granted being in an area with multiple water snake species, that was definitely not the case for me. I would go on to find my lifer Florida water snake, but unfortunately it was a DOR. DORs would be the theme of the night, as almost everything I found was run over by a car, proving that road mortality will always be a major threat to wildlife, even in rural areas. In the near 80 miles of road cruising on this second night, I would only find one more live snake, a young Florida cottonmouth along the side of the road. But nonetheless, being out on a warm night in the Everglades was quite peaceful, and I enjoyed the drive. For my second day in the Everglades, I began hiking around the campsite, seeing if I could turn up any snakes and other cool herps. Even though they are invasive, the amount of brown anoles in literally every square foot I covered while hiking was truly remarkable. In southeastern Georgia, where I live, brown anoles are very uncommon, and the native green anole is far more ubiquitous. But the farther south you travel in Florida, the more abundant brown anoles become. Just jumped off the corner. And then there's the bigger one that just leaped off that way. So, here we go. While green anoles are still present in southern Florida, even in the Everglades, they have virtually been outcompeted by brown anoles. And green anoles were very interesting. After hiking for a bit, I returned back to the Flamingo Marina to look for more crocodiles. And sure enough, our friend from the day before was still hanging around in the same spot. On the other side of the marina where I found two the day before, another crocodile was basking right on the mangrove shoreline. It is possible that this was the adult from yesterday, but it could also be a different individual. Once satisfied with my croc fill, I decided to slowly work my way to the entrance of the park and spend the rest of the day exploring as much of the Everglades as possible. As the moon rose and darkness fell again, so began another 40 miles of road cruising. This alert striped mud turtle would be the first herp of the night, and it was a sight for sore eyes. Prior to seeing this live one, I had found nearly half a dozen DOR striped mud turtles, so I made sure that this individual made it off the road safely. So we got this Florida mud turtle who's trying to bury himself into the ground over here, We've been seeing a bunch of DOR mud turtles, so it was finally good to get one alive. But really cool. Next, I would find 2 Florida water snakes. While one was unfortunately a DOR, I was able to make sure that this adult got off the road safely in the direction they were heading in. What the heck? This is a southern toad. Or is it a king toad? No, it's this big old southern toad. Could help this guy get off the road because we had a car up ahead, but really cool. The next snake species of the night would be this adult Florida cottonmouth, who would go on to display its namesake. When threatened, cottonmouths will gape their mouths, revealing a cotton-white interior, hence the namesake. This is simply a form of intimidation, as the snake is trying to look big and scary to ward off potential predators. In my handful of encounters with cottonmouths, this was the first time that I was able to film and photograph them mouth gaping, so that was pretty cool.
Nice meeting you.
Same here. Have a good night.
You too.
While this may look just like a worm, it is actually the smallest snake in the world, and it's known as the Brahminy blind snake. You can see the flickering tongue in this clip, which tells you that it's a snake. Reaching just a few inches in total length, these snakes are completely fossorial and are often found in flower pots feeding on ants. Originally from Asia, Brahminy blind snakes have been introduced throughout the world. Despite that, this was the first time I'd ever seen this species while I was down in the Everglades. It would only be fitting that just a few feet away from the smallest snake in the world. So right over here, I don't know if you guys can see it, that is a massive American crocodile just sitting awkwardly on the shoreline. This thing has to be at least 10 to 13 feet in length. I think this is the famous toothless individual who hangs around the Flamingo Marina, but holy cow, what a massive prehistoric dinosaur, essentially. I mean, he's more closely related to dinosaurs than any other extant reptile, so go figure. Another crocodile was also along the shore of the marina. At this time, I was out with some other herpers, and they were telling me that they watched this same crocodile hunt for fish for 30 minutes the night before.
Last night when he did this, he always swam around and came right back.
After a long day exploring the Everglades, I was ready for a good night's rest. Driven pretty much all day, so I'm going to bed. I'll touch with y'all in the morning. Until then. On my final morning in the Everglades, I would start by filming shorebirds along the beaches of Florida Bay. Watching a yellow-crested night heron and a juvenile white ibis hunt crabs up close was quite the treat. I also watched some black vultures eating a dead fish. And crossed paths with a second night heron. After viewing these birds, I would finally check out from my campsite and made one last visit to the Flamingo Marina, hoping to see crocodiles. Unfortunately, I would not see any crocodiles on my last day in the Everglades, but got to experience an unforgettable moment with my favorite raptor. Now check this out. Here is one of the adult ospreys feeding one of their nearly fledged chicks. Being able to watch and film this parental care was really cool and gave me some perspective on the amount of work it probably took for the adult ospreys to get their chicks ready to venture out for themselves. Just outside the marina, I was treated to a kettle of swallow-tailed kites. While these raptors do breed in South America, they can be seen hovering over marshes and other open habitats in the southeastern United States outside of the breeding season. After reviewing my swallowtail kite photos, I came across an individual who had just captured a frog. On my way out of the Everglades, I came across this massive garter snake that unfortunately was a DOR. This was a shame because typically most of the garter snakes that I find are between 1 to 2 feet in length. So coming across this 3-foot individual was a pretty uncommon find. This was also the first garter snake that I had ever seen with a blue pattern before, so a pretty unique individual nonetheless. After spending 4 days and 3 nights in the Everglades, I would bid farewell to the national park and make one more herping stop on my way home. Being in southern Florida, I was in a hotspot for invasive lizards, so I decided to poke around this farm stand to see what I could find. Green iguanas are extremely ubiquitous in Miami-Dade County, and I was able to find 2 chilling with some goats on a man-made rock structure. To me, seeing the iguanas hanging around with the goats was quite comical. Even though this was inside a gated farm pen, I am confident that the iguanas could leave whenever they felt like it, so I counted this as a field herping find versus seeing something inside of a zoo. I would go on to find one more iguana crossing the highway north of Fort Lauderdale, but I didn't get any footage of it. I would go on to see numerous Peter's Rock or red-headed agamas, especially around the parking lot of the farmstead. Regardless of the name, these lizards are from Africa and were quite stunning to look at. I followed this one with a broken tail for several minutes. and right next to it was another agama with its tail still intact. I could have spent the rest of the day herping in Miami for invasive lizards, but with work the next day and still a 7+ hour drive ahead of me, I headed back to southeastern Georgia. Well, there you have it. I'm officially back in southeastern Georgia, and it's actually been more than a month since I visited the Everglades National Park. I've actually just finished putting together the video that you just watched, and I hope you really liked it. And if you did, and you want to see more related content on herps and other wildlife, then consider liking the video and or subscribe to the channel. Either way, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking out this video today, and until next time.